So James was just back to sleep. Back to sleep. So, 3 more classes. Let's spend today.
3 more? Oh, right, yeah.
Monday and Wednesday. That's it. Let's spend today talking about our readings and abolition and revolts, that kind of thing. You guys have been doing an amazing job on the discussions. Some really great questions coming up and talking amongst yourselves and answering each other's questions. Really, really good. Bringing up a lot of interesting ideas. One of the thoughts that I was thinking of that was a thread through a lot of your discussions was thinking about 2 sides of the issue. One, why there weren't more revolts. So how did that not happen? Why is this not just something constant? And then the other side of that was why how those were suppressed so much. So it's kind of like the flip side of that question is why weren't there more, and then why weren't there more on the other side? And you were asking them from both angles. Like, okay, they have machetes, they have all these things. How could you not rise up? And then on the other side, people say, well, you live. That's the way things are, and you're being suppressed into this whole idea. So let's talk about that dichotomy, about that juxtaposition that we have with things. So, for instance, Kayla had a really good one about the patient revolution. And, let me just because it was a good set of. You all had really good ones. That one kind of stood out as a really good segue in. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Discussions. Was it Amanda? Well, Amanda had a good one too. Looking at slave owners and their slaves and wondering about how those don't foment more, right? You've got the machetes in their hands, and how does that not lead to more of those? And why were the slave owners so lax? You have farms are dangerous places, right? You have really sharp equipment, lethal equipment, but you also have to run your farm. So let's think about that one. And then there was one in here. I'm going to go back to that one. What was it? Pretty sure it is. That was a good one too. Let's see. Learning. I don't know. Kayla, do you remember how you stated it? Because it was really. Oh, there it is. I found it. Never mind. That was how she said it. So, why was the revolution itself inconceivable to Europeans? So that's taking all these same ideas, Amanda's idea, and Peter's idea, and John, all you guys were kind of on that. Why is this happening? Why is it not? Why is nobody freaking out about handing people machetes or leaving people? So let's talk about that question. Let's use that question.
What is it?
I think.
Okay.
Go ahead, John.
No, you go.
I was just saying, I feel like they had that social Darwinism going on, so the whites were smarter and better than the blacks. So they honestly didn't think that the blacks would be smart enough to rebel, use the machetes against them. Because they were that they believed in race that much.
That's part of it.
Yeah, I think there was a reading that addressed asked that too, like saying in letters or whatever. This guy was like, yeah, we're not gonna see that ever here. Like, nobody wants to revolt here.
Yeah.
And then like,
Our
a couple months
slaves
later,
are
there was,
happy and docile. Yeah.
yeah, and then a couple months later, slavery was abolished there.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think they naturally, to go along with the social Darwinism, they thought that blacks were inherently docile and good. They literally thought of them as like, we call them like pack animals, like cow, like cows are
It's
docile.
called chattel slavery.
Yeah.
It's
So
chattel
like,
slavery,
yeah, they were really into the idea of like them as basically, you're able to manipulate them just as much as you're able to manipulate a horse to do what you want or anything. So.
Maybe the slave owners thought that they fulfilled them with like almost like a place to live, work, like a life other than what they lived before. So maybe they thought, they're not gonna revolt away from what they have now because if they do, they'll have nothing or maybe even be killed. So maybe they just thought, why would they need to do this?
The benevolence of the slave owner is you've read about that. The article that Caleb was talking about was that's very much we're doing so much, and they're treating them either as animals or as children, right? So not fully developed, your morals aren't fully developed, your social skills aren't fully developed, all those things. And so white Europeans are training you on how to be human, basically, yeah.
I think they also thought that the black culture in itself was less so they wouldn't, it kind of goes along with what you said, they wouldn't want to return to that. Where if you expose them to such like, at that time, I don't know, such like modern marvels of the European society that they wouldn't be able to like cope with it and go back. But
Are these arguments new? Is this the first time you've heard these rationales? Where else did you hear this in this class?
at Airwalk.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. This was some of the same rationale for the encomiendas, right? So, we'll help them, we'll bring them along, Christianity, we'll make them fully human. We're not quite sure if they have souls or not. So many of the same things, it's just transferred into a different institution, right? Yes.
And also see from the reading that, like a lot of slave owners try to educate their slave, so that way they also blend into their culture, but at the same time, after that the slave will revolt and down, so that's another.
Very selective about what they want people to read, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so in many places there were laws against teaching your slave how to read. So why does that make sense?
So they don't do what all the leaders did, where they start learning about stuff and they read about the French Revolution and they say, why don't we try that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or like enlightenment thinkers, and they start to contemplate like their own rights and stuff like that.
Yeah, you start thinking about yourself in terms of something greater, right?
Yeah.
That's a little dangerous to be able to allow people to expand their mind. This is a dangerous space here, you guys you're thinking it's not a good thing.
Done for.
Yeah. So, yes, very much.
Yeah, I think also the slaves have been like so disciplined their whole lives that they're kind of intimidated to like rebel because of the punishment for them, like maybe other plantations around. Just like they would up the punishments and like they can pretty much kill them at their will, So
It's a police state.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, like, if you are basically have the possibility of like losing your arm or whatever, just in like average working conditions and everything like that, how, like, if I rebel and don't agree with the system, how bad are they gonna do something worse? Yeah, I mean, killing, I think some of them were honestly okay with that, it was more the, like the bad ways to go.
Yeah. Right, the brutality,
Maybe
but
go
then
for-
that they're thinking, but what's more brutal than
Yeah,
how
exactly.
I'm living
Yeah.
now. Yeah. It's difficult because we aren't in that space, right? So we have to put ourselves into that space, and that's why I'm giving you these readings, so you can have a better understanding of what that space was like. Because otherwise, just coming at it and trying to imagine what people would think, you don't know because you don't understand what's happening at those times. So that's part of the reason for those readings. The other part is so that you can see different sides of it, right? So you can kind of piece together all of those different ideas. And so then when a good question like this comes up, how is this inconceivable? Well, it was inconceivable because what else would you do? I mean, this is the way things are supposed to be. This is the way it's always been, right? It's always been this way. And to change it is to turn the world upside down. So, there was a note in there about somebody, I don't remember who it was, but somebody was saying that they were surprised that these revolts hadn't happened in the U.S. And the surprise is, for me, is that you guys don't know that they happened in the U.S. We had a lot of slave revolts in the U.S. A lot of them.
I think like the thing that like stuck out for me, I remember seeing that question was just that like there wasn't a whole revolt that like, you know, was able to spearhead a revolution or anything like that. And I mean, the reason that I thought of it was just that like these were on small islands, there was a smaller population and there was less communication amongst them. So like in the sense of like, say one plantation that has a revolt, it's easier for that in the southern United States or even in the northern to go get help from the other plantation owner and get him over there than in the other spots. But I don't know.
Yes and no. It's surprising. It is surprising to think how fast news traveled in an age without internet, without our modern modes of communication. Things got around really quickly.
The story twisted a couple times.
Yeah.
A couple different
It's like that
interpretations.
game where you
Yeah, exactly.
No,
But
definitely.
telephone,
There's
that's
no
it.
way
Mhm.
it stayed the same from the original
Yeah.
person.
Right, yeah. So things got a little skewed, but news of the French Revolution travel. How do you think it traveled?
By letter.
And
By
how the
ship.
letters traveled? Yes.
Yeah.
By ship. Ships were the internet of the 17th and 18th century, right? I mean, that news got around really fast via shipping lanes. So that's one of the reasons why the Creole languages are so important. That's how news gets transferred. You get to one port, and then it gets, somebody on that ship, they hear, and they get on a ship, and they go off to Martinique, and then the one from Martinique goes off to Guadeloupe, and then from Guadeloupe, you go off to Paris, and from Paris, you come back to, so it's, you're hearing all this, the news, and it gets around really fast. Once it lands in one port, you've got multiple ships to take it to different places. So that oral news, the oral talk, gets around really fast. Letters, the newspapers, right, those kinds of things. But the fastest way for things to get around was by word of mouth through the sea lanes. And then the next part is mercantile, right? So you go to the market, which is where they've just gotten things from the port. They bring the things, that news and the products to market, and then it spreads that way. So verbal communication was and still is huge. We don't realize how big verbal communication is in this day because it's in writing. It's the proof positive, but really verbal communication is still a big thing. I heard, I saw, those kinds of things. But there were some big revolts here in the U.S. There was the Nat Turner revolt, Gabriel Prosser in South Carolina. there was a huge revolt in Louisiana that covered multiple parishes in Louisiana, and actually at one point they had an independence territory for a little while before it was overrun again by the British. So the U.S. has had quite a few as well, and some very big ones. The Gabriel Prosser and the Nat Turner were after the Haitian Revolution, which was the big fear of the slave owners. It was like, oh, this news is we have to suppress the news from Haiti and this this independent Black Republic. Yeah. But the problem was all those people from the Europeans from the islands came to all these other places, and the news travels.
How might a slave find out about news? If they're locked to their certain plantation.
Well, sometimes
because their slave owner isn't going to tell them.
Trade, I mean,
sometimes they're sent to
material-
town, right? To
and
run
materials
errands
have
and
to
stuff.
come in and out. They got drivers and
Yeah.
That's
people
true,
to pick
that's
up
true.
and they chat in the quarters.
And what did you notice that, I think egalite starts with, something too. Let me go to that. I just wanna, there's another way it happens. Where's that in? Yeah. Yes, okay. I thought I just saw the spot where it was. It's not very loud. I don't know why it's not loud here, but look at what's going on in this scene. Okay, there's one way the news gets around. I don't know why we can't hear Laurent. What's going on in this?
Oh, it's gossip, right? Like,
Yeah.
like the house servants overhear the gossip from.
They're talking about what just came in at the port, all this news from France. And who are they not paying attention to?
Exactly.
That's how news travels. That's how it gets around on the plantations, right? So those aren't people. They are, they are
Machines.
servants, machines, yes, right? And so they are just in background. And they will sit and talk and carry on all this conversation with the slaves right there, hearing everything. So they're discussing all these things that are happening in France, or if you're in South Carolina or Rhode Island or something, you're sitting there talking about all these things that have gone to pass, and oh my gosh, I can't believe it, slaves now run a country, how is that possible? All these things. And not paying attention to the fact that there are actual people there. And so those slaves go and they tell everybody else, okay, this is what I just heard. That's how news gets around. Again, that verbal communication, where it's second nature, right? This is our society. These are cogs in the wheel. We don't even think about them. How do I get my tea for today? How does the meal get on the plate? How does the dust stay off of the countertop? All those things. It's this invisible workforce, but they have ears. They actually are human, right? They will hear, and that's how things get spread. Very fast too. And they aren't locked onto the plantations either. You can have passes to go, and your husband might be on another plantation, you get a pass to go there, you might not get a pass and you still go there. There are markets that people sell their goods in. I think the St. Lucia revolt talked about how it actually starts with the women at the market, right? The women at the market are the source to get all the information and coordinate the revolt. So the plantations are not isolated. But again, then there's this hubris. It's like, how do the slave owners not think this is a problem? Right? How do they not see that they are actually causing their own problems, right, by talking about them?
Would they even not even like think they would be able to figure it out?
Put together what they're saying.
They're not
Like,
human
thought
enough
that
to
low.
comprehend that.
They like thought that low enough.
There's two things on that. If they think that far ahead, that if they hear us, they're not going to understand it, they aren't going to be able to rationalize it and put it into any kind of cognitive order or anything. Even more than that, though, before you even get to that point, it's the fact that they aren't even there. Right? You don't even acknowledge them. It's like you get in the car, you turn on the ignition, you don't think about all the things that happen as has to click the spark to do this, to do that, to do the other things. They're just pieces of what happens in your life, right? So you don't think about when you go and pick up your burger at McDonald's, all the things that have happened to get that burger to you, wrapped in that, weird soggy thing. But something's happened and there are people in that link that get it to you. You don't think about that, and that's exactly what's going on here. Is they aren't thinking about that human part of their existence. You look confused, John.
Me?
Yeah.
No, I'm not confused. I'm a little tired, so I might look as if I'm.
I'm trying to stay awake.
Yeah, sorry.
All right. So we've got the slaves themselves working towards their own freedom, right? And that's not something we usually learn about, that the slaves actually participate in trying to free themselves, and they do from the very beginning of slavery, right? So our first revolution in 1502, and we go from there. Our first revolt in 1502, in the Dominican Republic. So it's constant. Then we have the abolition movement. Who is behind? Why is the abolition movement different than revolts, slave revolts?
Because it's you go.
They're trying to solve it like through the government. They're not trying to.
Who is?
Well, either. Yeah.
Ah, okay. And what's and you're talking about abolition?
Yeah.
And what are the revolts?
Slaves.
Yeah. It gives the government an excuse to act against them.
Okay, right. So we've got the revolts are actually self-promoted, right? The slaves themselves are acting to free themselves. And whatever means that means. The end result might be different, but the causation is they are trying to free themselves from whatever's happening. Abolition is coming at it another way, right? It's working to free them. It's not, they aren't active in it. They are actually, again, a piece, a subject, not an active thing in that. So abolition is Europeans or US whites saying, oh, okay, this is a bad system. Maybe we're part of the institution. How can we work to free them instead of them freeing themselves? Okay. So it is again an outside force working. Again, not easy for them because they also are bucking an institution. They're working against the grain in this. So now that you know what that world was like, what would cause you to want to be an abolitionist? And that's about as as well taken as a slave trying to revolt. You're working against a ingrained institution.
caused by religion, like in John Newton?
Yes, morals, yeah.
Okay. Alright, so guilty conscience based on a moral, religious kind of background. But the Bible is used to justify slavery. That's religion.
Different interpretations.
So you're working as an abolitionist, you're using religion in a way that goes against the institution of slavery. You're going against mercantilism, which is what slavery is all about. You're coming at it. So why would you subject yourself when you don't have to? When you can just allow things to status quo, and then if you keep your mouth shut, you just don't buy sugar.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that wouldn't be your place anymore.
Well, that does clear your moral conscience at some point.
Yeah, to an extent.
Because, yeah.
That's
So
one
yeah,
piece
so
at a
what
time.
what is in it for an abolitionist? Why would you subject yourself to something like that? Why would you put yourself out there when you don't have to? I mean, you can quietly not eat sugar. You could quietly
Yeah.
do things. But these abolitionists are vocal about it, and they are loud when they don't necessarily have to be.
Well, I feel like almost being obnoxious, I mean, not really obnoxious about it, but almost like spreading a word about it and being that one person who is, or is going to be an abolitionist is, I feel like it's very easy to spread and be talked about, and easy to convince other people maybe along the line.
Especially when it's one person.
Yeah, like one person does it, it can almost be like a chain reaction. If there are good sides to it, and people say, oh, maybe you are right, I don't know why we are exactly doing this.
Did you see? We've seen a bunch of videos and documentaries and
That's a
stuff,
movie that we
movies.
watched.
Yeah, which one?
You
saw a lot. There aren't a lot of
William Wilberforce.
Amazing Grace.
Amazing Grace.
Yeah, Amazing
Okay.
Grace.
So yeah, so there you saw, it was a fictitious version, but you saw this in action, right? So you saw some people who had these strong beliefs that slavery was a moral wrong. How'd that go for them?
People didn't really pay attention to it because of the economic benefits
Yeah.
necessarily, and the social benefits of not being the lowest on the totem pole.
It took them years to finally
Yeah.
get even close to what they wanted to achieve.
And did they actually achieve what they wanted to achieve?
No,
Necessarily.
they wanted abolishment, and they got the slave
Trade
ended,
abolished.
and then they, no.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm trying to get at is this was not easy, right? You working within the system and without even kind of trying to go within the system with this idea. People aren't listening, and you've got, it's like a huge, I don't know, like a just big destroyer that's just going through the water. It doesn't turn fast. It can't turn, it's huge. It can't turn on a dime. So trying to get that big ship to change course is really difficult. What kinds of things did they do in the movie or in any of the other stuff you've seen or read? What kinds of things were done to try to move the course of that big ship called slavery?
Petition signed,
Okay, petitions. So what kind of petitions?
like to stop slavery, or like, maybe not buy the sugar or materials produced by slaves.
Also, like, providing slave accounts was the thing that they were doing. I forget the guy's name.
Equiano?
Yep, that guy. He was really, just providing a personalized, showing people that they are people.
So you had Ignacio Sanchez and Olada Equiano and quite a few other people who write their own personal accounts, which becomes propaganda, right? It's they're autobiographies, but they are also propaganda. So they're telling a story for a reason, with an agenda. So you use that. You use petitions and not just, you know, you don't just send out a petition for, like, you know, an ActUp.org thing saying, you know, stop slavery, slavery's bad. They're going at small things. So don't buy sugar from, you know, Walton's sugar suppliers, because that, or only buy sugar from this person because it's beet sugar and that kind of thing. So the petitions were small things, except for that one really big one where they went to people to say specifically stop the trade, right? These are people saying, these are your constituents saying they want the trade ended. But other than that, usually the petitions were small, going at small things, pieces of it. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about this, but how in Great Britain, how did it goes in increments? So the first thing that happens was in 1807, and what was that?
1807. That's Britain
Mhm.
banning
And
the slave trade.
banning the slave trade. How did they get that to go through?
Ships
Backdoor.
with
Yeah.
American flags. They could seize, right?
Well, it was the economic thing.
It wasn't the U.S. flag. It was
The French.
French
flag.
French flag. Yes. Why?
Because that was the flag that most people were flying when they were importing slaves, right? Because like Great Britain wasn't defending France at the
And
time.
why not?
They were fighting a war.
They're fighting a
Yeah.
war. They're fighting a war. You're in the middle of the Napoleonic Wars. And France is the enemy. So you don't want France making money so that they can fund their war. So the best way to do that, who rules the seas?
The English.
The English, right, the British rule the seas. So they set up this thing, a net, right? You guys can't get your product through, you can't make money off of it, because we're gonna confiscate it, we'll make money off of it. And if there happen to be slaves on there, because those are products too, right? That's merchandise. If
Legal
some of your merchandise happens to be human merchandise, well, we'll confiscate that as well. So whatever merchandise happens to be on your ship, that's how they got the slave trade abolished. It was actually a naval confiscation law. It was not actually an abolition of slavery, at the slave trade. It was an abolition of merchandise from France, which then gets built up. They build onto that to make it. And then a year later, the U.S. joins in that. U.S. is independent at that point. It is the United States. But enough of our merchandise comes from, there's enough trade going between Great Britain and the U.S. That it makes economic sense to join the British with this ban on trade. Because otherwise, what happens?
Well, they basically trade shuts down.
Yeah. Your ships the U.S. ships get confiscated and boarded and all that, so they were tired of that and said the best way around this is.
But weren't they also in a war? Weren't they on the French side at some point? No, maybe not at that point.
No, the
The
French,
Americans?
the
Yeah.
the
I don't
French.
think they ever joined the war.
No,
I know they
didn't.
did. I know they
The
did.
French. You're thinking of the French helping in the American Revolution.
No, I know that they.
Oh,
helped
you mean in the Napoleonic Wars?
Yeah, it was later. I know that they did it, but they were definitely supporting the French.
I know they were conflicted because
They
Jefferson
were-
was president at
yeah.
the time and he wanted to support them.
Because he had lived in Paris and
Okay.
there had been, Hamilton lived in Paris. He was a master. So it was difficult for them to kind of, against that, but trade was suffering.
Yeah.
So that stood out above it. So, okay, so we've got the trade now. So technically, you're not supposed to bring human merchandise from Africa to the Americas, technically, right? Why does that not end slavery?
Because there's still slaves in the Americas.
You just bring them.
In the US, that's what ends up happening, right? Well, we can't bring a supply in, we'll make a supply. So the US, that happens. Does that happen in the Caribbean?
No.
You look-
I'm
you
just,
look like,
I'm
"No,
thinking
it
about why they
happen."
didn't think that, like, well, seems like the most sensible.
It actually goes back to your argument earlier, Ronnie,
Which one?
the geographical argument.
Oh, the island, okay.
Island versus the mainland kind of idea.
Or do they just trade between the islands?
No, what ends up well, yes, there's nothing that says you can't trade between Barbados and St. Lucia. So the trade that is banned is coming directly from Africa. There's technicalities then once it gets into the Caribbean, and sometimes the ship captain can talk their way out of it. Well, I'm coming actually, it's inter-Caribbean trade. It's not, I didn't bring these slaves, so that can sometimes be passed off as it's not, it's not really the slave trade kind of thing. We're just moving people around, and so that was easier to do on the island. You could shuffle your slaves around to different places. In the U.S., nothing's coming in, right? You can't get anything in. So it really does mean if you're going to continue this institution, you need to make your own slaves. In the Caribbean, that becomes harder, partly because of the type of slavery that we had. It was much harder on the slaves. An average, what did they say an average lifespan was? In
Brazil was 3 years, something like that.
7 years.
Was it
Brazil.
Brazil was that?
Mm-hmm. And it was, do you guys remember how much it was in San Domingue?
14?
Yeah. So, that's not long, and that's not enough. And you're working women so hard that they can't produce, right? So, that became a problem. I mean, it's not that in the U.S. it was much better. Women, there's no prenatal care for a slave woman. It's not considered. They in that case, a horse can have actually a horse got better care than a slave did, but she can just do that all on her own. She doesn't need any help. So the Caribbean, we've got this idea that it's not reproducing itself. So what ends up happening? You can't reproduce the slaves, and you can't bring slaves in. So the British and the French, well, actually all the islands except for the Spanish, what ends up happening?
You gotta find another source.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's one option. Find another source. So did they go to that, finding another source? You'll get to that. There's next week, you'll see that. They actually do. So they do find another source. But something happens before that, before they find another source, because they need to find another source. Why do they need to find another source? That you have read.
Because they can't just stop slavery.
Why can't they just stop slavery?
Because their system is entirely dependent on it. All the plantations were shut down, the revenue was shut down, then they couldn't import anything or export anything. And then Britain and Europe would kind of shut down because they would be getting all the stuff that they'd be dependent on, and so they're like,
It's
well,
not just Europe getting things from the slaves countries. There's another,
They have no final production, right? So they need stuff from Europe, so they need that production.
yes, it's a cyclical thing, right? You need the raw materials from the colonies, and then the colonies, then the mother country sends the finished product back, so it's, and what do you use to get the raw materials and the finished products back and forth?
Ships
And where are the ships manufactured?
back in Europe.
Yeah, in Europe, okay. What about the steel for the chains for the slaves, or for the machetes, or where's that made?
Europe.
Everything
Okay.
but rum is my acknowledgement.
Rum you need to come over here to get, but everything else, it's the final material, if it's made, the cloth, the iron, all those things, you need that. So what happens if you just stop the institution of slavery?
Lots of unemployment,
Mm.
massive losses, economic losses, and your colonies are not, they're not profitable, they don't exist.
So massive unemployment, right? On both sides of the ocean. The slaves have nothing to work for, and your underclass in Europe has nothing to do either. The raw materials are coming, and it's supplying all these factories. We're in the middle of the Industrial Revolution. So all these people that you pulled off of the farms into the cities, they're working in these factories that are going 24/7. But now if we don't need steel, if we don't need cloth, if we don't need any of these other trade materials, and if we aren't getting the raw materials for it, then what do? We bring us all the way back up to 2018. We just saw yesterday what that means when you mess with the supply chain. All the tariffs that our government just put on China and all these other places that have all these raw materials, right? Put a tariff on that, you raise the prices, you make the little pieces of things cost more in an effort, right, to end their contribution. Then what did that do? What was a trickle down that happened?
Increases the price of stuff
It
here.
increases the price of goods. I was looking for washers and dryers the other day, and I was like, how did these go up $300 and $400?
Black Friday.
I went before Black Friday, but it was, yeah. So there's that, but then there's another consequence. What just happened yesterday in the auto industry? Anybody know? Has been
Anybody else know
isolated.
this was happening? I did not know this was
Yeah,
happening
I
at
didn't
all,
know that.
like this one.
You guys been isolated?
Yeah, I guess.
St. Michael's Pond. Yesterday GM announced that it was closing 5 plants in the US and Canada.
Why?
That's not good.
Yeah.
Wait, why? Wait.
They're citing that, one, the market has changed, and 2, the supply chain is too expensive. So getting the goods that they need, the metals and the plastic pieces and all that little things to make those has changed. And 2, people aren't buying cars, sedans, they're buying trucks and minivans and that kind of stuff. And so you can see, I'm bringing it back to 2018 to show you when you're going, we're going for these more energy efficient cars, we're going for America made or whatever, whatever those pushes are, it's turning the ship. We had been going this way, one of the plants they're closing is 30 years old. They just built it in the 80s. Because going up. Everybody's buying cars, but then what happens in the 90s? People stop buying cars, gasoline, and all these things, going for electric cars, all this kind of stuff. Took 30 years for this ship to turn, right? And now it's like, so what do we do? The auto industry is not where the jobs are, right? This is not it. And it's irresponsible for a politician to come in and say, hey, I'm gonna open up these plants again, I'm gonna, start get American-made cars, blah, blah, blah. That's irresponsible because the ship's turning. We can't get the ship. I mean, it's going to take another 30 years to turn if you want it to go that way, you turn it that way. But by that time, the route's changed, right? And that's what we're talking about when we go back to our slavery thing. We're talking again about these things. This is big, and once you start that little avalanche, right? Of maybe chattel slavery isn't such a great thing, and maybe we need to. Well, what does that mean? And that's what what was his name? Lord, whatever his name was, the MP from Liverpool was saying. It's like, if you stop what in Jamaica and Barbados, all the slavery there. What does that mean for my constituents? No more boats, no more iron, no more cloth mills, no more, I can't go to my people and say that. I won't have a job. And the next person, he's gonna be telling them lies that that all your jobs are safe. But no, they're not. You're changing the world. You're changing the way things happen. That's what slavery was. That was the problem that the abolitionists had, right? Is that they're pecking at something that's really big, but that was their goal. Eventually, it's going to change the tide of things. Does that help? Okay, so then I'm going to throw another one at you. What's the difference between abolition and emancipation?
Well, I think, doesn't emancipation usually refer to actually freeing this?
No, emancipation is in one area, right? And abolition is everywhere.
Emancipation when
Well, the
you
Emancipation Proclamation was-
freed, active actually free.
I'm gonna let you guys chew on that one. I'm not gonna answer it right away. I want you guys to read some more and chew on that a little bit. Work that one out on the discussion board, okay?
Emancipation versus
Abolition. There's a textbook, a dictionary answer, but I want you guys to think about it in terms of what you've been reading and what you've been seeing, okay? So let's throw that one up on the discussion board for the weekend, okay?
Is that gonna be 15, is that 15 or 14? That's 15, right?
Yeah.
Is that gonna be the last one, or is there one more after that?
There's one more after that, but it's not, I'll show you guys what's coming up. So. For your discussions this week, start on Monday and goes through Sunday is this. And so I have some questions here. I think I actually, oh, look at that. I actually have that in there. So work on that one. So this is due Sunday, right? And then you work a little bit on through the end of the week. And then next week's is a little bit different because your classes end next Wednesday. So this one we'll go through the weekend of before finals, and the last time to turn it in. Our final is on Monday, a week from Monday, right?
Jeez.
So It's a little bit different. It's not, by Wednesday, the end of Wednesday, you'll have finished all of the last discussion board thing. So this one is just kind of like a review and kind of keeping you guys talking so that you guys can keep the class going until our final on Monday, which is a group project, which I've got here. So you guys ready to switch gears a little bit?
That's on Monday, you said?
Monday the 10th.
I was about to say.
Yeah, a week from Monday. A fortnight. A little less than a fortnight. Okay, so this is your, myself. This is your final thing. And the groups are totally random. I let Canvas randomize you. So, how to do that. It's actually, I'm always fascinated by Canvas's random thing.
Yeah.
It's very weird. But all the women at once, in one group. It's very weird. Okay, so this is our project. Right. Oh, and there's one more thing on that last one. This to come up with a question that if you were to have a final exam, which I'm not doing, what question might you put on that final exam? So kind of thinking of
That's on the final discussion.
the
Any
final discussion.
ideas, though?
Yeah.
I want to give you any ideas, though.
Oh no, you're not having it. This is your final.
No, I
This
know,
is your
it's good.
final.
I just
But
want-
you could like ruin
I'm just
some
totally
future.
Yeah,
speech.
that's right. That's what I'm getting to.
Okay. So this is your thing. Why don't you guys get into your groups? Sit next to the people so you can get to like them a little bit.
Can't wait to. JP coming over again.
What is?
Come on over.
Oh yeah.
Do we need anything else specific?
Your something to write with and your computer. Just move completely over.
Wait, what's going on here?
You got it.
I'm getting boosted.
Oh, you're over there.
Yeah.
You guys want my chair?
I may need you.
All right. Okay, so as you see, there are three things you can do here. One is create a public forum debate discussing the pros and cons of abolition, of either the slave trade or slavery itself in the Caribbean in the 19th century. And you can think of this. Remember how in the movie Amazing Grace they had these like public forums where they sat in a room and they talked about slavery, and it was like a public debate kind of thing. The other way you could do that is thinking of it as a legislative debate. So you could be in Parliament or in the House of whatever. In that and making that discussion. You can be really creative about how you want to do that. But the point is that what you're doing is discussing the abolition of either slavery or the slave trade. Okay? The second idea is imagine you're a time traveler from the year 2292. I don't know why I came up with that date, but the 92 was the anniversary of Columbus landing. So, on an extended trip through the Caribbean, your time capsule got caught in a time vortex and you landed in the Caribbean at various times between 1790 and 1840. So your TARDIS just was acting up, right? Okay. So describe your journey in the presentation, your journey is going to be included in a major documentary that will air, following the anniversary of Columbus landing in the Caribbean. So whatever happened, you're going to have to kind of distill your information for a documentary. So kind of think about what dates did you stop at, where did you visit, what did you see, what struck you as strange, foreign habits that you agree with or disagree with, describe people and the social order and cultural things and that kind of stuff. So you're making a documentary of your trip. Okay, and then the third one is you are the governing council of a successful maroon community, and you've received a letter from a slave who is interested in starting his or her own runaway slave community. What advice would you give him or her on settlement, recruitment, daily life, defense, how to be have a successful maroon community? So those are the three things. You can decide how you want to present them. That's all up to you. The presentation should be no less than 20 minutes and no more than 25 minutes. You have plenty of time, but I just want to give you I don't want it to be too short, but I don't want you to be working forever on this either. Okay. You can do it live, or you can video your thing. You can, decide how you want, or you could do part and part, or half and half, or a third and whatever. You can mix it up if you want. Now the big thing is who gets to do what. There's only one. There's 3 groups and 3 things, and there's no overlap. So you guys should confab and decide which ones you would like to do, and in the order that you'd like to do them. And then we'll do clues and questions to decide who gets to do it. We'll play a game to make it fair. So
Yes, I agree. Yes.
Alright. Do you guys know what you want to do there? You guys have a second choice?
Yeah.
Okay, you guys ordered? All right. Okay, so we're going to play the 5 clues, 20 questions.
Dude, you know what? You guys were king of that game. So
with each of your groups, come up with your answer, 5 clues, and we'll play the game.
Can you draw straws?
I didn't bring straws, so we're going to do this in a
3-way record.
academic way.
Who can work the most?
all right.
Wait, it has to be a part, it can be anything, right?
Anything from the class. Anything from the class. Fair game. they can have, it could be an event with a date, or a name with a place, or just name, or whatever.
What about?
I'm leaving that one out here. I'll leave that part up to you.
Yo, I approved it yesterday.
Make sure you let Brandon know, because he wasn't here for the game, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
That's badass.
Yeah, no, I think that's good.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, I'm down. Yeah.
Oh my God. I don't want that.
Yeah.
He's good. Wait, he actually.
Do I?
Sorry.
That makes it way harder.
Alright.
I got it right? Oh, no.
I didn't even know it was right. I didn't even know it should be the.
It's a different lettering.
And it's gonna be included.
I got it.
So, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, we got you guys.
I know you guys.
That's
Yeah, I know.
Yes, pretty good.
A little more lead.
Are we trying to have you?
Signal-dowski.
Oh, you went first choice.
You're good.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
That's a
So,
good one. That's a good one.
Team with the most points chooses first.
You're good with that.
420.
Hey.
Is that your answer?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. It depends on your clues.
just.
Yeah, but you have to.
James and John have a little bit of a leg up. They've done this now. This is your third time here?
Wait.
Now I know why you won.
Wash my hands.
Yeah?
Or even that, or the, was it the, was it one?
Wait, we're only doing 5?
Yeah, there's 5. There's basically a hurt.
Then there was.
Oh, there's 21st.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm thinking of the one that we did. Presentation.
How was your first one?
I mean,
We did that.
I see you, it's like.
Boy, no, I reworded it. Columbus discovers me.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Alright.
Let's get ready. Okay.
Prophecy.
Is that too much of you?
No, July has something to say.
Yes.
No.
I've seen worse.
I have never heard that before.
Yeah.
Give my pen back, right?
Sure.
These are supposed to be together.
Oh,
But do they have to be?
They don't have to be.
I mean,
Yeah, you know,
don't
they're
have
not.
to. Alright, that's fine then.
Yeah.
Wait, so we need one, right?
Just one, we're just doing one.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. First team with the most points after 3 rounds.
Alright, let's do this.
Get your guess and stuff.
Yeah, let's look at some
I wanna win.
Or you can say like, it's actually you guys can say like it's a function of this. It's a
A lot of initials. Wait, how many guesses do people have? I think one. Yeah, one. Right?
One.
That's
Just
one
one.
guess.
Yeah, just one.
Oh, so
Yeah.
we can be manipulative.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so what people will, if you want to, if you guess and you guess wrong,
You're out.
out for the.
But weren't we
for
doing
each
it that you
round.
get a guess and then you get a second guess in the?
If they make it
Yes,
point for us.
if you make a guess here and you're wrong, then
Yeah.
you're out of, for this one. If you make a guess here and
Yeah.
you're wrong, you're out for
Okay.
this one. You're reinstated for this and then.
Right.
Everybody have all their clues? You don't have all your people yet.
We don't wanna like confuse the real and mislead. Does that make sense?
What?
But,
I'm a competitive player. I get really good.
I certainly will.
A.
Should I answer it?
Oh, no, it's okay. I didn't know it was mine.
Nice shirt, by the way.
Love that shirt.
Thank you,
It says, I'm not a princess, I'm a Khaleesi. You ever seen Game of Thrones? We have 6.
Hi.
What are these?
Go first.
Oh.
Is that yours, Amanda?
No.
Okay.
Slay.
It's really-
You.
Oh, I understand that.
Right
Oh.
away.
Done.
I got it right away.
Like fresh cheese.
Okay, everybody ready? You guys ready? Okay. Does a particular team want to give their clue first? Anyone want to go first?
Freshman.
Yeah, we'll go first.
Hey,
Senior should go first.
Oh, Gauntlet's been thrown.
Hey, we'll go first.
I have a glove there if you want to throw the gauntlet.
Wait, we'll go first.
Don't wrestle.
Okay, all right, they're going first.
Reading.
Lived in the Caribbean.
Say that again?
Lived in the Caribbean.
Did I just pass you or like each other?
Yeah, each person gets the
Alright,
same one.
people died. Oh, wow. Okay.
Can't be this one. Lilo and Stitch.
Okay.
48 to 56.
Dangerous.
What?
Alright, any guesses?
Hold on.
You could guess now and, yeah.
That's on you.
It's on you. Karens.
No.
Nope. You guys wanna make a guess?
No harm.
Okay.
The Arawak.
No.
Okay.
No, I'm just saying.
Okay. Alright, so we're into 20 questions.
Is it a person? Wait, do you have to guess before the 20 questions?
Is it a person?
No.
No. You guess before the 20 questions.
Wait,
It doesn't
they
look
still
like it.
lived.
Is it a group of people?
Nope. What? Were they alive?
Yes.
Well, seeing as they got killed. Seems to typically means. Is it? It would happen.
Because it lived.
What?
That was the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah.
If you're trying, if James and John know this, if you're trying to get to an answer and you don't want to make the actual guess and lose, try to figure out how to ask about it. Like, you know, you want to know if it's Disney, is Mickey Mouse involved? Okay? You want to say Disney, but that could be the wrong answer. So is Mickey Mouse involved? Is it in Florida?
Okay.
It's not a person or a group of people.
But it's still alive.
Is it an animal?
Did we have to ask
Wait,
that question?
Yes.
Did we have to ask that
It
question?
could have been a fruit.
The massacre of the
Wait, so is
mangoes.
that a
Yeah,
yes
but
or
he
a
said
no on the
dangerous.
animals?
Fruits are dangerous.
He said poison. The last word is dangerous.
Oh, it was?
Yeah,
So that's why I was like.
Oh, okay, so what is
That's why I said shark. No, I know it's not.
Does it fly?
Yes.
Okay, you got 4
Mosquitoes.
away.
Or, yeah. Aha!
Wow, okay. Damn. So they get a point for getting to the Blues Cruise.
Oh, yeah. We're the 13th.
No, they go to Earth because mosquitoes
Oh,
are
yeah,
endangered.
yeah.
Is that a thing?
Yeah,
Yes,
that's in Lilo and Stitch, yeah.
They go to Earth?
Yeah.
That's why the aliens come?
Why would you want to
That's so weird right on my head.
Yeah, they put that down as a clue, and I was like, yes.
I don't remember that.
There's mosquitoes coming in. It's like what we learned.
Okay, so we've got
Yeah.
a tie right now for first place. Who wants to go next?
We'll go.
Okay.
Wait, so can we go over the rules?
Okay, we're gonna go over the rules again. The rules are you, the team gives their clues. You can at any point during those giving of those clues guess if you'd like. But if you guess and you guess wrong, then you guys can't make any more guesses for the clues. Okay. But then you'll be reinstated if it goes past the clues. Then you'll be reinstated for the 20 questions. With those clues, the winner is either if you guess and you guess correctly, the team that guessed correctly gets those points. If you stump everybody and we move to 20 questions, the team that's giving the clues gets the points. Okay? Good? All right, go forth.
Columbus discovery 1492.
Rum.
Don't say
Piracy.
1834.
Suleiman the Magnificent.
There you go. Oh my god.
Any guesses before we move on to 20 questions?
I just write something point. Oh, they're not guessing.
Within the
Why not
clues.
guess? They can guess it.
Within the clues.
Yeah, that's how we do it.
Probably,
That's how we do it.
probably Solomon 1834. You said it within your
You
clues.
guys having a guess?
Not really.
You
It's
guys
all
said
up
it
to
within
them.
your clues. You guys are all gonna know it. They're gonna guess it.
Do you want to guess? No?
Is it England?
No.
Do you guys have a guess?
We can see.
Okay. Alrighty then, so I'll give you guys the, is that right? Yeah, okay.
Is it a person?
No.
Is it an area?
Yes.
Is it in
No.
South America?
No.
Is it in Central America?
No.
Is it in the Caribbean?
Yes.
Is it an island or group of islands?
Yes.
That's not
Well,
yes or
you have
no.
to wonder,
What?
That's
That-
not yes.
Yeah, is it an island or group of islands?
Yes.
Sometimes. Yes.
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 It's yes.
There's not really many questions you can ask.
there's a lot of
Plenty of
questions you can ask.
But
But
there's
not
literally
that
no
I actually
limit.
help you think. Like, no, it's okay.
All take imagination.
You can just guess. It's okay.
Yeah, use your guess.
Is it
I think they would miss.
in Eastern Caribbean?
No.
Does it start with an S?
No.
No.
Does it start with a C?
Not this start with nonsense.
That was another 3 tally.
Yeah. One more.
So is it?
Oh, it's only 10 questions, right? Cause
It's 20.
Oh, is it
So-
20?
But they only have 11 left.
Right.
Come back a little bit.
What?
Excuse me, what are you doing?
Patriots versus Vikings.
Uh-huh.
Is it a group of islands?
No.
No.
Okay.
Because he asked a compound question.
Oh,
He asked, is it an
yes.
island or is it a
It was a
group?
clarification.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then,
So then.
there's only like 46 options.
Is
You
its
guys are
own
halfway through.
Did it
nation?
start with an H?
No.
No.
Is it its own nation?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm assuming that was applying to modern day. Or is it?
Well, let me think about that one.
Wait.
No, yeah, modern day.
Was it captured by the French?
Yes. Pretty sure. Yes.
Was it?
Yes.
Right now.
Remind me of which.
I don't think.
It was, I know when.
How many questions?
No.
No,
No.
it was not
No.
captured.
It was not captured by the French. Some other entity or country.
So it was never submitted.
So, is it ruled by judge right now?
Not right now.
Right now?
Was it,
No,
was it
never. It was,
It was ever.
No.
no, never.
Okay, 6 questions.
So was it controlled by the English then?
Yes.
Okay.
That was
Yes, but I think.
Is it like a British colony?
Yes.
Okay, did you guys hear that?
What?
It's a British colony.
It's different from the colony being
Yeah.
controlled by the British. You need protector.
Is it one of the Virgin Islands?
No.
No.
3 questions.
Yeah, he doesn't choose wisely. That could be an option. Just so y'all know, me and Kevin made this up.
Be right.
Y'all.
How are you?
Oh. The name of it.
Can we guess?
You're not gonna guess. Just ask silly question. That's all I do. No. The one that like just Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
We might get part of it.
Yeah, I know they'll get.
I would.
Bro.
I don't know, is there a date?
I'm assuming.
Sometimes.
Wait, what did he ask?
Sometimes.
Is there a date?
Did you ask something?
No,
No.
I just said there's a date. Yeah.
Wait, did you say 1834 or something?
Yeah, we
That
did
was
say
included, yes.
1834, just
That's
that
the
year.
slave abolition.
Is that your guess? Are you guessing?
No.
Is that a question?
Is that a question or a guess?
So,
Or neither.
Neither.
That sounds like a
Sometimes,
question.
sometimes maybe.
So then,
I think that's a question. If she asked,
Okay,
is it?
sure, question.
But,
Wait, what did
But that was
she
just
say?
asking what
is it
slavery
was?
abolition?
No.
So yeah, that's a question, no?
if she was asking it to, she might have been actually in the, just to the,
Oh.
into the
Clear.
year.
start the J.
Yes. There's another question.
Really?
You can't lie.
I just told you.
No, it's
It's
just-
a J. Everybody,
Oh,
did
did
you
you?
get a J?
Alright.
Oh, do you? Yeah.
But wait.
You're Jamaica.
Sometimes.
Wait.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
Is it
that's the
near Jamaica?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. That's 2 questions because they asked, does it begin with a J? So they have
Yeah.
1 question left.
Yeah, they did ask it.
Yeah.
What was the answer to does it begin with a J?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes? Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, can I guess?
Do-
Jamaica.
Somewhat.
Sometimes.
Sometimes?
Alright,
so
you're
almost
the last
there.
question, it should be, what?
Yeah, one last question.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can't,
All
no,
of
you
it.
guys
There's 2 questions.
guess, they
Yeah.
can't guess again.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
good
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah.
Until
They
then,
guess.
yeah.
No, you guys
Wait,
are
they
done.
get a chance
Yeah.
to.
Until we, yeah. What?
It's Jamaica. That's not all.
Yeah. What's the date in your clues?
No. There's the last question.
What was the question? I didn't hear
Is
it.
it-
What's
date
the
in
date
the-
in their clues? So Jamaica, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, those are questions you should have asked a little earlier.
That's what it is.
Cool, all right.
No, is it
You
Jamaica?
guys
We
are-
didn't make a
Well,
guess
what?
yet.
No, no,
We
they
didn't
get
make
one.
a
They
good.
get to-
How did
They
they,
have
wait,
one
how would
guess.
they
They
have?
have one
They'll
guess.
agree, they'll
Oh, yeah,
guess
yeah,
the
yeah.
20 questions.
Okay,
Because we got this.
great.
Jamaica 1884.
No.
What was it?
Jamaica 1494.
Wow, that was sweet.
The year it was discovered.
Alright, well, good luck.
Okay.
I'll leave.
All right, so,
Good luck at that.
yeah, the Giddy crew is up by 3, super giddy over there.
I mean, there's no catching up. Can we just take our and they can do. rock,
Actually,
paper,
there
scissors?
could be a catch-up.
Yeah, because they have. Wait, which
If
team
nobody
is that?
guesses, no,
Alright.
it's them.
Okay,
We're
yeah,
going.
they could get both. Yeah.
Alright, you
Alright,
guys
so
good?
if we make it through the first round, then they get to pick first,
Uh-huh.
right? Alright.
How
And then we just gotta get second pick at least.
If you get it in the first
I
round,
would
you're going
second, most,
No,
wait,
you're right, but
for
there's no
most
way.
points,
So,
they pick
most-
first,
yeah.
second,
Who's
Yeah,
gonna get
second
second?
most points,
Yeah,
you
they
pick
pick.
second.
So you're going- you're going for-
It's just in between us two.
You're
Yep.
going for second place.
Yeah, you're going for second.
We couldn't spoil it, just guess it.
Or they could tie.
Or they could get more points.
Yeah.
It's still for
Actually, no,
making
there's
it
no
first
way
and
for
second.
never mind.
So we're okay if we guess
So
it,
go
we're
ahead,
okay
you
if
guys,
we
you're running out of time.
Alright, African Americans,
Natives.
Whites.
France, Britain, Netherlands.
Oh my gosh.
Fort Nassau.
Oh gosh.
I think that's it, right?
Yes, that's
Can
fine.
can you say those all again?
No.
France,
You got a question?
Netherlands.
whites, blacks, natives, right?
Yep.
Wait, France, Netherlands.
Wait, did they say
Fort
woods?
Nassau.
What?
They said woods too, didn't they?
Woods?
I wasn't paying attention though.
I don't think they can do that.
And then Britain, right?
Yeah, I did that.
Just fuck.
Was Britain one of them?
Yeah.
Okay, you guys ready? You gonna guess or are you gonna do 20 questions?
I'm gonna guess.
Wait.
What's your guess?
I was-
Who's the last one?
Yes.
Who's the last one?
Those are all. Okay.
I'm not with it. Yeah.
Alright, what was your guess?
Any guesses? Okay, so then these two and one.
Oh no, 'cause there's a Spain. That's interesting.
Let's try that. Go for that.
We could guess right now though, and then.
Yeah, why
Do it.
not?
Okay, the
Guess.
Burbis
No. No.
Okay.
I'm just saying no.
Damn.
Okay, guys, guessing or not? Because we don't have much time.
We're gonna guess. Wait, what was their guess?
Herbicide slave revolts.
Or B thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
herbicide.
No?
No.
Okay.
It's just it doesn't
Yeah.
hurt if we guess, right?
No?
So then, slavery. I think.
Nope.
Okay.
Wow.
First question, is there
Oh yeah. Sometimes.
Is it?
a? Wait, I heard all
Wait, there's a
three.
three.
Wait, yeah. One answer for them.
There's definitely a date.
Here's the date.
Yes. Yes, no, sometimes.
Why
Okay.
gotta take a?
Does it involve slavery?
Sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes.
Is it an event?
Sometimes?
Sometimes or yeah.
Is it an event?
Yeah,
Wait, is that sometimes or a yes?
Sometimes.
Sometimes, I think sometimes.
Sometimes.
Sometimes it definitely involves
Okay. Next question.
Is it an event?
60% of the time where it's
Sometimes.
Is it a person or a place?
You wanted one question. You can't compound them. Well, I mean, you can, but then you want to know what you're asking me to answer for.
Or, no. Is it a place?
sometimes. Is it?
Sometimes it's not. but
Yes.
Yes.
It's a place?
It is a place.
How is it?
Wait.
What is it?
Yeah, I know.
Is it in the Caribbean?
No.
Sometimes.
No, sometimes.
Sometimes.
Oh.
Sometimes it's in.
Oh. Wait, it's a place?
Yes, sir.
Is it an island?
Is it a group of islands?
Wait, would that even be a place? Yes.
I think I know the
Island is
answer,
a
and
place.
it is.
And
Yeah.
sometimes it's a what?
Sometimes in the Caribbean.
Sometimes in the Caribbean?
Because sometimes
Why are you guys even?
Is it a ship?
Yeah.
I should just keep questions.
Oh, we have 3 minutes.
Good luck with the 20 questions.
Yeah, you got
We'll give you all 20.
Are you guys done? Did you guys get
What do you
it?
mean?
Give us a guess here.
I forgot that.
Throw us a bone. Oh yeah, wait.
Oh,
Wait, just before, does Fort Nassau have to do with the date?
No.
Okay.
Okay, the fort doesn't have to do with the date, guys.
You're welcome.
Can we?
Okay.
Okay, you're halfway there?
I could do the
You
rest.
guys want to keep going, or?
Can I take a guess?
Is it in Jamaica?
What?
Is it on Jamaica?
It's only sometimes. Wait, it's only sometimes in the Caribbean? It's
No,
not-
no, because it
No,
says
I said
sometimes
no.
in the Caribbean. There's no,
Or no, I said
there's
sometimes.
never.
You said sometimes.
It's a place that's sometimes in the Caribbean.
Oh, what?
Oh. Y'all taking plays on my place.
That's according to her.
Yeah.
Stop stealing plays.
Sounds like you got it. Yeah, we took it from you, young late.
Is it a system?
No.
Is it a
Yeah,
system?
assist-
Is it a system?
It's a place.
It's a plate.
I was doing it
And
like.
there's a date.
I was doing like.
But it's-
June,
You guys are in the same place all the time.
I was on June like saying that.
It's sometimes in the Caribbean, man.
Rob's not even in
It's so dumb.
thinking outside.
9 questions.
I'm way out of here.
You guys actually fucking late.
Are you guys still guessing?
You're not giving up. No, I don't. Good try.
Warm it up.
Is it on a mainland? Or is it connected to a mainland?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so is it,
You guys making-
is it in South America?
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what we should do?
Okay, so now, how many questions do we have?
Should have done.
You have, 7?
Yeah.
7.
Is it a capital or a country? Or is it a capital?
No.
No. Okay.
But we didn't.
Oh yeah. So how many?
Yeah, 6 questions.
Wait.
Yeah, there's so many countries for you guys.
There's a date. Is it used for transportation?
No.
No.
What?
5.
I like one.
It's a place!
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah, but
you
it's
can,
connected to the mainland. Yeah, but still.
Scoreboard.
Yeah, I don't.
Does it begin with a P?
No.
Four questions. And we're at time, so I mean,
Uh-oh,
it's
sorry.
the end of class, so however long you guys wanna stay.
Florida, 1842.
Yay. So close.
Wait, what?
Wait, did we get part of it?
Oh my god.
No.
I'm gonna say this one. And then I hit 8.
To be around.
Is it in the 1800s? Oh wait, no, we already
No.
guessed we're out.
Oh wait, no, is it in the
Guessing.
1500s?
No.
Is it in the 1600s?
No.
How many guesses do I have?
That's
Uh-oh.
Is it the
Oh,
1700s?
look, 18, 15, 16.
Is it the 1700s?
Yes.
One guess left.
And then I can guess, right?
Yes. One question left, you need to guess.
Oh, that's still the question with no.
Yeah, we got one more.
Yeah. And then does it start with a G? No.
Yes,
Well, it's
it
like
does.
to pick second.
Does it start with a
Yeah, it does.
G?
G, yeah.
Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah.
Oh.
Then,
Was it Florida?
Wait,
Diane, 1745.
No.
What was
Second
it?
place.
Was it British guy?
1745, I said. What was, so tell them what it
It was
was.
Guyana, 1763.
Okay.
Which
All right, so before you go, now that you've done that.
Yeah, you guys.
You guys need to pick your
It was the
answers.
date of
Okay.
it.
Wow.
Oh
my God.
God.
So that was a good guess, though.
Yeah, you guys did have a good guess.
First guess.
But I'm so
Yeah.
happy I got to say no to
That's
this.
the revolt. That's the
Like when you said no to
Yeah,
that, I
place
was
the date of the Berbice.
You actually guessed it.
We want B, right?
Okay.
Yeah, we want beef, please.
B,
The winner
okay.
wants B.
The winner.
I don't want it.
All right, so they've got B. You guys,
What do you want?
A or C?
Well, we want B, so. No, gotta win. You gotta win. Only winners get B.
Yeah, what are you?
I don't know. Either I'm between A or C.
Wow, really?
Oh, wait, can I read them?
That's like we'd have to stage a debate, and that one's like we'd have to.
Stage a debate or be in the House of Legislature or.
You didn't want that was the only thing I didn't want
do
to
it.
Really?
Eight?
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright, we'll
So
take
you guys have us, you have.
You didn't want
Yeah,
no, I did
yeah,
not want
that's
that.
good.
No, I agree with you. I think it's the hardest one by far.
I do not want that. No.
Everybody else wanted that one. I was like,
That was the one. I was like, if we're third, we're gonna get here. I do not want to deal with that.
No, you
Yeah, I gotta swing my Sean real quick.
I did not want B. My first choice is A and then C.
I don't know what you get then.
Everyone wins.
I had the same exact setup as him. Yeah, I was like, what's going on?
Yeah.
C?
C's
Yeah.
Put himself in the ground.
Bye, have a good one.
Bye. See you guys later.
We can do the CFA thing right now. Or it's
Oh. Yeah, I got
I really hate doing this. I don't know why I was like talking to.
See you guys later.
Bye, Professor. Thank you.
See you later.
You're welcome. See you tomorrow.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Yep.
Drive safely.
Thank you.
I'm sure you're a veteran.
Yes, now I am.
Bye.
Bye.